Is it possible for the Detroit Pistons to have moral victories at this point? They certainly tested that tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Ku Khahil, and later on we will discuss, did Detroit prove anything, maybe not to themselves, but did they prove something with tonight's game to any of their doubters out there? Did they prove anything to people out there who thought maybe they're drawing dead in the playoffs? We'll talk about that later. Also, we've talked about this dude a lot, but man, if he's going to keep playing like this, we're going to keep talking about him. Kevin Huerter is playing like he wants even more minutes than he's getting right now. We'll talk about that a little later. Talk about where he's at, I think, in the rotation at this point with how he's been playing. But first, we're going to start with breaking down this game and trying to figure out, are the Pistons capable of having a moral victory at this point? They are considered contenders. They are first in the East. Most times when you're at this point, there's no such thing as moral victories. Either you win or you lose. What's the point of a moral victory? You're trying to win. And the Pistons lost this one to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They lost 114 to 110 in overtime. In this game, the Detroit Pistons were without Cade Cunningham. They were without Tobias Harris. They were without Duncan Robinson. They were without Jalen Duren. And they were without Isaiah Stewart. They were without four members of their starting lineup. They were without five of what you'd call probably like their top 7 players in this game, top 7, 8 players on the team. And despite that, they had a 7-point lead with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had a shot to win the game at the end of the fourth quarter. They forced overtime and ended up losing by 4 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. By the way, in a game that saw the Detroit Pistons shoot 12 of 23 from the free throw line. So the team shot 12, and we're getting into that, but 12 of 23 from the free throw line. You're missing 4 of your starting lineup members. You're missing 5 of your top 7, 8 players on the team. And OKC, they had everybody except J-Dub, the main J-Dub. They had SGA, they had Chet, they had Caruso, they had Lou Dort, they had Cason Wallace. They had everybody else. And despite that, the Pistons went out there and gave an absolute hell of a fight and gave themselves a chance to beat the defending champions, the first seed in the West, without 4 of their starting members. I want to get into the game and talk about some things that were frustrating, because initially I thought we were just going to record this podcast and talk about why, you can't really read too much into this because obviously they're going to get blown out. They don't have their guys. But once it became reality that, oh my God, they might win this, and then all of a sudden the expectation was, okay, they should win this game. Now everything changes. Now the perspective of mine changes to, okay, now I'm analyzing this game like you need to win, and why didn't you win? So we'll get into that in just a moment, but I would absolutely be trolling. I would be insanely wrong, and I feel like almost anybody that talks about this game would be completely off base to not talk about the Pistons in a glowing fashion to start the game off with how much they were missing against the quality of opponent that they were facing off against, to do what they did tonight, to have this type of fight, to play the type of defense they played. Now, SGA ended up with his crazy numbers, but outside of SGA, they did an incredible job on everybody else. They dominated the glass. They fought their you-know-what's off on the glass. They were diving for loose balls, and offensively, they made it work however the way they could possible. They were fighting. This team, they deserve a ton of credit. Before we get into just breaking down what went wrong, they deserve a ton of credit for even being in this game at the end, for forcing overtime. This was an insane game for the Detroit Pistons. And I would not be shocked to see many Pistons fans say that they were proud of their team tonight with how they played given the circumstances. Now, with that said, they did have a chance to win. So I'm going to talk about this game, about why they didn't win, and some things that really frustrated me. There was a few things that I thought, now listen, there were some calls that went against OKC as well. There were some calls that went against the Pistons. Myself, I was pretty removing bias. I did not like the last call on SGA's shot that he made. He did extend his arm, but it's at the end of the game. There were about 5 other push-offs or 5 other potential calls that were way worse than that one to allow him to do the other ones and then call that one at the end of the game on a game-winning shot. I'm never a fan of that kind of thing, but obviously I'll take it for the Pistons. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about the officials. I don't think OKC got every great call, and I didn't like that call at the end either. So I usually just don't want to spend too much time with the officials most of the time anyways. So I'm not going there. Here are a few things that stood out to me that I really disliked from this game. I thought lost the Pistons the game once they actually had a chance to win. 1, Danis Jenkins' turnovers were killers. He had 5 turnovers in this game, and each one was a killer. Each one was a live ball turnover. Each one was off a pass that he was trying that wasn't open. There was even, in the fourth quarter at one point, Ausar had ripped up SGA, kicked it ahead to Danis, who threw a tight needle pass to Kevin Huerter. It eventually got there, but it got tipped a little bit. Luckily, Huerter was able to recover it and score anyways. But those are the kind of passes that Danis was throwing tonight, and he turned it over way too often, and really, they were just killer turnovers. The last one that he had, I almost brought me to my knees. I almost fell to my knees when I saw this turnover. The Pistons have 24 seconds left on the clock, no shot clock. They can hold the ball and take the last shot and make sure SGA doesn't even get the chance to take that shot at the end. And instead, he runs some action early into the clock, which I didn't like in general, going that early into some action. And he tries to split a double team with a pass, but doesn't even wait for Javonte to flash completely and just basically throws it right to SGA. And now SGA comes down to where what should have been a Pistons final possession of the game turns into SGA now has a chance to dagger you. So that was killer. I thought Danis was really sloppy with the ball in this game. He ended up with 15 points, but this was one of those games where I feel like if you watched, I really did not think Danis had too good of a game. So that was one reason, or one thing. 2, Ausar Thompson, I thought was really good in this game. He had 8.7 rebounds, 5 assists. He had 3 steals and a block. I thought he was really good in this game. However, 2 things. 1, he went 2 of 6 from the free throw line. You just simply can't go 2 of 6 from the free throw line. He has to make his free throws. I'm not asking for 6 out of 6, but 2 of 6 can't happen. 4 of 6, we'll take 4 out of 6, but 2 out of 6, just absolutely killer. And it wasn't just him who missed free throws. The whole team was missing free throws. I mean, Paul Reed missed his first 2, but ended up making his next 6. Huerter missed 1. Sasser missed 2. Tolu missed 2. So it was killer. Ausar has to make his free throws, man. He just has to. That's 1. 2, he had 5 fouls at the end of this game. The possession right after he ripped up SGA and gave the Pistons a big lead. He's guarding SGA full court, and he ends up picking up a foul. There's 2 directions I want to go with this. 1, I feel like as a coaching staff, as a player in Ausar, if you have 5 fouls and you know you're guarding SGA, who we know tries to get calls, I feel like you probably should not be guarding him full court, so you're just not even in that position. Let him get the ball up the court and play defense. I know Ausar is great at pressing. I know he creates so much havoc doing it. But in that specific situation, I think you have to back off and just say, I'm not even going to risk it. I'm not going to let the refs try and make a call on me. And they did. So I thought that was really killer. He fouled out of the game there, and I thought at that point the Pistons lost the game. He was playing incredible. Losing him at that point, I thought that lost him the game. With that said, so I put that on Ausar. With that said, Asar's last 2 foul calls, that one and the one before that one, where he gets called for a foul running into, or him and Caruso run into each other off the ball, going for a rebound, or just cutting to the basket, and they call him for a foul. The Pistons had a challenge during those 2 calls. They didn't use a challenge on either of those calls, which I don't think either of those were fouls. You know how impactful Ausar is, how important he is. Why are you not using a challenge on one of those calls to keep one of your most impactful players on the floor still? I don't understand that. And the reasoning that they would argue back was, you're doing it to hold on to a timeout. Well, the problem is that 2 possessions later, the timeout that you refused to make a challenge for, you ended up using that timeout on an offensive possession where you have 0.6 seconds left on the shot clock. The Pistons were inbounding the ball underneath their own basket. There's 0.6 seconds left on the shot clock. That possession is basically dead. And Kevin Huerter calls a timeout. So now you didn't use those challenges on either of those calls against Ausar that I don't think were fouls at all. The broadcast didn't think so. I didn't think so. You didn't use them for there because you wanted to hold on to a timeout. Just for that timeout that you saved to be used 2 possessions later on a dead situation that you had no chance at anyways. So I thought that was just a very bad misuse of not only not using any of your challenges, but then also for Kevin Huerter to call that timeout was absolutely killer. You basically did it for no reason at that point. You held on to that timeout, watched the target fouled out, and now you don't even have the timeout to begin with. So it's absolutely killer. I thought those were the few of the things that really hurt the Pistons at the end of this game. Obviously, like I said earlier, this was a great game for them to even be in. The fact that they had that close of a chance of winning and were in control of the game with 3 minutes left is incredible props to them. So I started off with that, but at the end of the game, once you have a chance, these were things I thought really let them down. Danius' turnovers I thought really hurt them. Ausar pressing full court with 5 fouls, knowing who he's guarding, I thought was a mistake on his end. He needs to make more free throws. The team needs to make more free throws. They were 12 of 23. They need to make more free throws in general, but Ausar needs to make more free throws. And then the coaching staff, I just really disagreed with not challenging either one of those calls because you wanted to hold on a timeout just to end up using a timeout in a situation that you had no chance of scoring anyways. So, good game, tough situation at the end, tough way to lose. They could have won this game at the end. I almost feel like they should have won this game at the end. Some things they'll learn from, some things they'll correct. Overall, good game, but this would have been a good one. Once you had that chance, this would have been a good one to be able to say after the game, they beat the Thunder without these guys. They played that well. You must respect us. Like that, it would have been a great one. It would have been so big for bragging rights. Still is very impressive, but man, some of those mistakes that we brought up, if they just avoided that, they could have won this game. Coming up, I want to talk about Kevin Huerter, who it continues to press for more and more minutes. Even when everyone gets back healthy, he's trying to make the case that he deserves to play even more. We'll talk about some of the other guys that really played well as well. Talk about that coming up. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. Mine is going to be Strawberry Bananas, my favorite flavor of just about everything. A tropical delight with strawberry. A taste that goes in everything from smoothies and milkshakes to cakes and ice cream. Sweet strawberry flavor up front and soft, mellow banana finish. But if that's not your favorite, you got plenty of other flavors to choose from. You got Cotton Candy, Fruity Rainbow, Cherry, Grape, Berry. You got Hawaiian Breeze, Sour Apple, Peach Mango, Tropical Burst. A ton of different flavors that you can check out and make your number one pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft over at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. So again, find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Now I've got to tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Make sure you guys are checking out the Everydayer Club in the description down below if you want to get ad-free listens of Locked On Pistons. You can also join the Locked On Pistons Discord server if you check out the link down in the description below. Also want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. Now, getting back to the game, I wanted to spend the majority of this segment talking about Kevin Huerter, but I can't not talk about the other players that really contributed to this game and really contributed to the Pistons almost pulling this one off. I want to start with Paul Reed, man. Paul Reed is a Piston for life to me. Like, he could go and play for another team next year. He could end up getting traded. He could end up signing somewhere else. Like, that could happen, but I'm always going to consider Paul Reed a Detroit Piston. I feel like he's one of those guys that, like, in 20, 30 years from now, you'll see him at Piston games, and you're like, oh, that was a fan favorite. Oh, Paul Reed, he used to play real hard for the Pistons. He always showed up. Because he absolutely does, man. In this game, he had to play 34 minutes. Again, against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, let's make that clear. He's playing against Chet Holmgren. He's not playing against some bum down there, all right? He's having to play against the defending champs. And in this game, he scores 21 points, leads the Pistons in scoring. 10 rebounds, leads the Pistons in rebounds. Gets 4 blocks, leads the Pistons in blocks. Gets a steal as well. Has 4 offensive rebounds, hits a 3, shoots 6 of 11 on 2s, overall 7 of 13 from the floor, really efficient game, 64 true shooting, and absolutely just played his behind off in this game. It feels like every single time Paul Reed is called upon, outside of the one game, I can only think of one game where I felt like he really played bad. I think it was the last game. It was either 2 games ago or last game at home when he really struggled. Outside of that, literally every game Paul Reed has played in, I feel like he has had a large impact on the Detroit Pistons. He's played really well. He plays his you-know-what off. He's active on the glass. His defensive playmaking, we've talked about that a ton on this podcast. He's not just a solid defender. He's a playmaker on that end. He has quick hands. He makes plays at the rim. He creates transition opportunities for the Pistons. He's active in the pick and rolls. His random blitzes create turnovers. And there's a few rebounds he had where he's just absolutely fighting and overpowering whoever, whether it be Chet Holmgren or Jalen Williams. He's just fighting and giving it everything possible to secure these rebounds. And I feel like each rebound he collected was such a big-time one to secure, especially when you're playing against OKC. You cannot give them second-chance opportunities. When you force a miss, you have to secure that. And the Pistons were able to do so in large part due to Paul Reed just fighting and boxing out and being as physical as possible going after OKC. So I thought Paul Reed played absolutely fantastic, man. And again, I've said it all year. He's the best third big in basketball. The Pistons are down Stu and Duren, and I think they're the only team in the NBA who can miss their top 2 centers and it not be that big. Or it's not that, he's better than these guys, but like those guys are out and you don't miss a beat. It's not like you're panicking because you got Paul Reed, who's just been incredible for them. So I had to shout out Paul Reed. Javonte Green, they were calling him Klay Thompson on the broadcast. He shot 5 of 11 from 3, man. Not much else to say there. He was incredible. They needed each one of those threes, obviously, to be in this game. He even had a moment where he took a heat check. They got an offensive rebound, 13 seconds on the shot clock. They threw it back out, and he took a 34, I think it was like 33, 32-foot three-pointer with someone in his face and just pulled up and took it. And while everyone's reaction, I feel like most people's reaction was like, whoa, okay, tough shot. I feel like also people were like, well, he's been hot. Is he actually going to make this? Like, and then when he missed it, it was like, okay, yeah, probably shouldn't have taken that one. The Pistons ended up scoring in that possession, by the way. They got another offensive rebound scored. I believe that one was also by Paul Reed. But Javonte was really good in this game. He got torched a little bit at the point of attack by SGA, but it's SGA, and we know that Javonte is much better as an off-ball defender. He's not necessarily the greatest point of attack guy. And he was put in that position because Ausar got fouled out. So it's not all on him. But those 5 threes, all of them came in clutch for the Pistons. They need every single bit of them to pull this victory out. Now I want to talk about Kevin Huerter, who is the guy I really wanted to spend time focusing on. Kevin Huerter in this game, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, which tied the most on the team. He tied it with Danis. Shot 7 of 16 from the floor. Not the most efficient game by the end of the game. A few of those threes that he took were like heaves at the end of the game, at the end of fourth quarter, and at the end of overtime, just trying to get the Pistons back into it. if you watch the game, I don't think that accurately depicts how efficient he actually was because of those shots. Shot 4 of 7 on twos, 3 of 9 from 3, but like I said, I thought a few of those were obviously heaves to just, see if they can get back into the game. And most importantly, just going beyond the stat sheet, which, by the way, over his last 5 games now, he's averaging 13, 3, and 3 on 58 true shooting, less than 1.5 turnovers a game, 1.4 steals a game, shooting 61% on twos, while also shooting 36% from deep. So he's starting to make threes. But more importantly than that, if you watch this game, Huerter, I don't know how else to explain this. He is just an incredibly smart basketball player. And no, I'm not just saying that because he's a white basketball player. I know that the go-to thing for white basketball players, they're sound fundamentally, they're smart, they're high IQ. That's not why I'm saying it. But he is very smart. He's a very smart basketball player. He plays the right way. He reads defenses very well. Just for example, they have him running off some off-ball screens, right? Whether it be a DHO he's coming off of, or if he's coming off an off-ball screen, catching it to see if he can hit a movement 3, in both situations, the defender guarding the screener is coming up to attack him on the catch, right? And instead of him taking forever to make this read, he catches the ball, notices the bigs coming up to try to take away the 3 from him. He takes one dribble to the side to pull the big out just enough to where he can slip this bounce pass to Paul Reed, and they get an easy bucket at the rim. He did that probably 3 or 4 times at the end of this game. In the fourth quarter, in overtime, just making that read over and over and over again. There were multiple times where he was able to then, if it wasn't open, if the bounce pass wasn't there, he was able to attack downhill and get to a floater. Multiple times he's able to attack downhill and then finish at the basket. Multiple times he would get downhill and then kick out to a teammate. A really nice read. He had one really... I think it was Javonte in the left corner where he made a cross-court skip pass that I thought was absolutely incredible by him. I don't believe Javonte made this one, so I don't think it pops up in his... I don't believe it was one of his assists. But just an incredible pass from him to the point, no, I'm not trolling, I'm not exaggerating at all. Towards the end of this game, I started wondering, is Huerter the best playmaker on the floor for the Pistons? He might just be a better playmaker than Jenkins at this point. Jenkins was really struggling with the point of attack defense from OKC. And obviously Huerter would not have been able, at least I don't think, maybe he would have, I don't know. But I don't think he would have been able to handle bringing the ball up the court against the same pressure Danis did. So he probably would have ran into the same problems in that situation. But him as an off-ball playmaker, him as a secondary creator, a secondary playmaker, he was incredible all night. Whether it was him hitting shots, whether it was him creating his own shot, getting downhill, whether it was him reading the drop defender or the big defender and slipping an easy pass for Paul Reed, or getting downhill, then dumping it off to Paul Reed, or getting downhill, then kicking it out. He was just incredible in all facets of the game, to be honest. He was really good defensively, I thought, as well. He really competed on that end of the floor. The broadcast was talking about how he was giving a lot of effort. And that's the thing with Huerter as well that I've noticed. And we've brought up a few times in the podcast, but he's big. He has a long wingspan. So he's not someone who can get picked on easily, and he's pretty strong too. So he's able to make things happen on defense. But most importantly, offensively, I think he's even better than Duncan is. I think he flat out just simply is better than Duncan at this. Now Duncan is the much better shooter, obviously. But I think he's an even better playmaker. He's an even better ball handler. He's an even better decision maker with the ball in his hands. He's an even better finisher at the rim. He is playing for the Pistons over the last 5 games like the absolute perfect role player. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean the last 5 games he is playing like I want to say this guy's name, but I think once I say his name, people will start to take it as a one-to-one comparison. Well, I'm not saying he's just as good as this guy at all. But he is, I'll just say it. He's not just like a role player off the bench role, like 10, 15 minutes, whatever. I mean, he's playing the role player role like Derek White does for Boston to a T over the last 5 games. Now, he's not as good as Derek White. I'm not suggesting that. But doing all the minor things amazingly well for the Pistons. Making rotations on the weak side. being able to run the break in transition and make the right read. Find the open guy consistently. Be consistently able to attack gaps and make the right read off the bounce. Be someone who can score at the rim. Be someone who's able to hit some outside shots. Be someone who's able to create a little bit for yourself. Be someone who can create for your teammates. Be someone who's able to keep the ball moving. Notice when just the extra quick pass, the extra quick swing pass is there and can create an open shot. Notice when you don't need to have the ball in your hands long, get the ball out of your hands quickly, keep it moving. Backdoor cut. Now I got a layup. Like, he's just playing, I think, amazing. I feel like if you watch the last 5 games, you agree. It's hard to put it into numbers, even though the numbers I think are pretty good. I mean, like I said, over the last 5 games, he's at 13, 3 and 3 in 26 minutes a game. Really good efficiency. I think he's been really good, and I think he's pushing not just to be the first guard off the bench. I think he's pushing to try to take some of Duncan's minutes. Because I'm not going to lie to you, while Duncan is the much better shooter, some of the stuff that Huerter is doing as an off-ball playmaker and some of the stuff he is doing with the ball in his hands, that is incredible. You don't understand how valuable that is, especially when you pair that with Cade. When Cade gets doubled, when he creates an advantage and kicks it out to the weak side, having someone that can attack that advantage, not just as a shooter, but can attack that advantage into the gaps. And if the three isn't open, be able to get to the rim as a finisher or create another advantage for the other teammate and keep the advantages going. Huerter's been very impressive, man. I mean, incredibly impressive. I've really, really liked what I've seen from him. And this game against OKC, a defense like this, being able to do what he did, I'm incredibly impressed. Incredibly impressed. Coming up, though, did Detroit prove anything to their doubters in this game? I want to talk about that coming up. It's tax time for a lot of us, but the old way of doing taxes is a lot. It's trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person, and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today with TurboTax. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. You guys, maybe some of you are wondering this. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but maybe some of you guys are wondering, Ku, why did this one come out so late? Well, the game didn't end until like 12:30. So it went to overtime. Had to start recording really late, so I had to get this one out late, obviously. Game lasted a very long time, and they were in OKC, so they started late. So I apologize if this one's going to be posted after midnight, but the game didn't end until after midnight, so I think you guys understand. I want to just quickly hit on this, because I thought I was going to be talking about this on the podcast as more of like maybe the second segment, like it was going to be more of a featured topic on the podcast, but then this game happened, and this was incredible to watch and had to be talked about. But I'm going to turn this game into the rant I wanted to go on, and then we'll wrap the podcast up. I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast today, who I want to say on the front end, I like listening to Bill. I like listening to Zach Lowe. I think they both obviously watch basketball. I think they both obviously love basketball. And the teams and players that they talk about, I think they obviously actually watch. So that in and of itself makes them a good watch for me, because a lot of people in the national media space, in the NBA in particular, not in other sports, sadly, I don't get it. The NFL has great people nationally watching all the games and loves the sport. In the NBA, it's hard to find national people who actually just like basketball. Like, most of the time, it's just them hating on the current generation or hating on how basketball is played now, or not actually even watching any of these teams and trying to talk about them. It's bad. So the fact that Zach Lowe and Bill Simmons, I know, love basketball and actually watch these teams and all these teams that they talk about, it's fun. I enjoy the listen. And I think, especially Zach, I think Zach is a very smart guy as an analyst. I think Bill's also smart, but I think Lowe is more of the X's and O's, like that kind of guy. Either way, I wanted to start it off with that because I'm about to go and criticize them. On their podcast today, they did a ranking of most scary teams in the playoffs. I understand that it's not best teams in the playoffs. It's most scary teams in the playoffs if you're considering everyone's healthy. Now, the exception obviously was like, you can't say Jimmy Butler's coming back for Golden State. You can't say, oh, Giannis is going to be in like those ones, but the guys that we're expecting to come back basically. So with that, I would understand if they didn't put the Pistons top 3. I would understand if they didn't put the Pistons top 5. They're a very young team. There's questions on offense. Heck, I have the same questions on offense. I'm not expecting the Pistons to be at the top of that type of list. I'm not expecting them to be first. I'm not expecting them to be over the West teams. I'm not even expecting them to be over Boston. I would even understand if someone said, you know what, we just trust Cleveland's veteran stars more. Like, I could understand that. I may not disagree with all of it, but I understand that. But they didn't have the Pistons as 6th. They didn't rank the Pistons 7th, 8th, not even 9th. Heck, not even top 10. They had them ranked 11th. I wanted to rant so badly on the podcast about this, but this game was great, so I can't be on here as long as possible. But ranking the Pistons, the 2025-2026 Pistons, 11th in anything. Ranking them 11th in anything is absurd. It's just crazy. Especially talking about scary for the playoffs. This team has won 54 games. They might, probably not, but they might win 60 games. 11th? Again, I can understand if you don't want to put them as the favorites. I could understand even if you don't want to put them at the top 5. I get it. Experience, question or no. 11th? Are we joking? The utter spit in the face that is. I could not. The absolute disrespect that it takes to call a team that has won 54 games, that has the second best defense in the NBA, that's by far and away the number 1 seed in the East, that has a record of this against all the top 4 teams in both conferences. If I can get this tweet up that I just put up earlier. It's taking me just a second. Give me just a moment. Here you go. They are 3-1 against the Celtics, 3-0 against the Knicks, 2-2 against the Cavs, 1-1 against OKC, 0-2 against the Wembies. Okay, here's what it is. 2-0 against the Lakers, and 2-0 against the Nuggets. They are what? 3, 6, 8, 9, 11, 13, and they're 13-4 against the top 4 seeds in either conference. Again, I'm not saying they have to be top 5, but 11th? Are we like? You might as well just spit in your hand and slap the Pistons across the face. That's just insane. So now that leads me into this game. Because there's all kinds of talk about, what happens when they actually go against a great team. We don't know if Cade's going to be healthy. How good is Cade going to be? How good are the players actually around Cade? There's all this talk about the Pistons constantly. There's talk about, the Pistons have just caught teams at the right time all year. They're lucky. Okay, well, in this game, they nearly beat the Thunder. They forced them into overtime. SGA played. Chet played. Caruso played. Cason Wallace played. Lou Dort played. All of their guys played basically besides J-Dub and Hartenstein. And the Pistons were without Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris, Isaiah Stewart, and Duncan Robinson. And despite that, they were able to force this game in overtime and have a 7-point lead late in the fourth quarter. Again, not trying to get no cookies for moral victories. Not asking them to go ahead and give me a gift and send it over to the Pistons facility because they lost by 4 points to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I ain't asking for all that, right? But what I am saying is, put some respect in the Pistons' name, because yes, I do think they proved something to their doubters tonight. Because there's been a lot of talk over the last 2 weeks amongst national media. When Cade went down, it was, I'll be surprised if they win 2 games. Well, they've won 4 already. It was, they're going to get destroyed by OKC tonight. Well, they had to lead with 7-point lead with 3 minutes left, and they ended up losing by 4 in overtime without all these guys. At some point, your priors need to be adjusted. I get it. Before the year, in the early part of the season, you didn't want to believe in Detroit. I get it. You didn't think they were actually good. They weren't one of the teams that you thought would be at the top of the conference, so you've been hesitant. You've been hesitant all year to say this team's actually a really good team. I get it. You don't want to be wrong. You don't want to admit you're wrong. No one likes going back in their priors. I get it. You want to be arrogant. You want to be stuck in your ways. I understand it. But it's March 31st. The Pistons have 54 wins. They have a 13-4 record against the top 4 seeds in both conferences. They have dominated the 2 teams that people say will beat them in the playoffs in the East. They have 3-0 against the Knicks and 3-1 against Boston. They were just without 5 of their top 7 players and took the defending champions to overtime. At some point, your priors And your concerns about, well, does it look nice? Do they score in a way that looks cute to me? I don't know. You know what? 11th. Let's put them behind the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's put them behind the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Boston Celtics. And whoever the hell else they put them behind. It's absolutely disrespectful. It's absolutely insane. Just utterly insane. And yes, I do think the Pistons proved something tonight to people. Maybe not Pistons fans, but to people nationally that continue to second guess the players outside of Cade Cunningham, that continue to question some of the depth on this team and continue to question the sustainability of their defense. I don't know how you watch this game and still feel the way you felt before. Again, not asking to be top 5, man. I get it. You don't want to put them top 5. Not asking for that. But 11th is basically digging up a grave, putting the Pistons in the grave, putting the dirt on top, peeing on the grave, spitting on the grave, stomping on the grave, and then walking away. I mean, that's just utterly ridiculous, man. That's crazy. That's absolutely insanity. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. There's another. See, I'm so upset. I don't even remember the outro. You guys know what the deal is. Hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.